the American Revolution. Analyze the ideological, military, social, and diplomatic aspects of the American Revolution. Investigate the intellectual sources, organization, and argument of the Declaration of Independence, including the role of Thomas Jefferson and the Committee of Five. Thomas Jefferson was a member of the House of Delegates, and he believed in political freedom, religious freedom, and equal educational opportunity. The Committee of Five consisted of John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Robert R. Livingston, and Roger Sherman. The Committee of Five were the main principal authors in the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Explain the reason for and significance of the French alliance and other foreign assistances, including the diplomacy of Benjamin Franklin and John Adams. Benjamin Franklin played a big role in the alliance between the colonies and France, as Benjamin Franklin represented America in the signing of the Treaty of Median Commerce with France. This treaty allowed the colonies and France to trade freely with France, and the French helped the American colonies all throughout the war. They stayed to help because the French and the British sides had a long rivalry because they were two of the strongest Europe countries at the time. John Adams also represented his new way of thinking, which is appreciated now, and that is John Adams believed in that appeals for justice and formal protest were better than flash mobs and any type of physical combat trying to prove a point. John Adams also believed that the purpose of a government was the greatest quantity of human happiness. War generals throughout the war. Analyze George Washington as a military leader, including but not limited to the influence of Baron von Steuben, the Marquis de Lafayette, and the significance of Valley Forge and the creation of a professional army. There were many generals involved within the war, and one of the famous was our first president, George Washington. George Washington was an American general and commander-in-chief of all colonial armies. He had previous experience as a general while serving New England's vast army. Another general involved was Baron von Steuben, and he rose to the position of captain throughout the 7-Year War. The colonial army was grateful to Benjamin Franklin for having him serve the colonies because he helped bring Baron von Steuben to help the American colonies. Marquis de Lafayette was appointed to Major General because he had a very close relationship with George Washington, almost as if they were father and son. Marquis de Lafayette had his own division, and within that division, he helped the colonies with hit and run operations against the British. Baron von Steuben was also a general, and he rose to captain because of the 7-Year War. Baron von Steuben was trained soldiers at Valley Forge and was appointed to Inspector General of the Army within the rank of Major General. He helped train American troops adapt Prussian army techniques because they were more fitted for a less rigid drill system, and the American character and the conditions of their warfare were fit for the proper training that they were given. After the war, Marquis de Lafayette was considered as the hero of two worlds and was promoted to Brigadier General. Geography. Investigate the role of geography at the battles of Trenton, Saratoga, and Yorktown. The Battle of Trenton was located in New Jersey, and George Washington was the general in charge of the battle. He and his men had to cross the Delaware River to get to Trenton, but along the way they had experienced really bad weather, including the freezing over of rivers, various dangerous snowstorms, and due to those awful conditions, they had lost many soldiers throughout the battle. The Battle of Saratoga. General John Burgoyne was leading the British and Prussian forces throughout the battle against the colonies. John Burgoyne's plan was to invade the colonies by going through Canada into the northern parts of the colony. He had to go through the Hudson Valley, which was already owned by the British, and at the time Canada was under French control. The Battle of Yorktown. Many people believe this battle was the turning point for the Revolutionary War. This battle was also considered to be the last battle because the colonies were holding British forces up by the coast, and with various bombardments of cannons, guns, the British forces had to back out. The role of side groups. Examine the roles of women, American Indians, and enslaved and free blacks in supporting the war effort. Females throughout the war played major roles, and they helped as nurses in the war, and they also took care of their husband's land, and they were, in some cases, were actually participating in the war. They participated by becoming spies for the colonists and obtaining secretive information that no other soldier can get. The American Indians wanted to remain neutral from the start, but they began fighting and they sided with the British because the British had promised them the land that the colonists had previously taken or that they have lost during the Treaty of Paris. When the British lost, the British had blamed the American Indians for not helping enough, and they were sent farther off from their lands that they originally were living in. Slaves were used as soldiers, and they were promised freedom if they helped their masters or generals fight. When they weren't given what they were promised, the slaves, free and enslaved, they either went to other parts of the colonies where enslavement wasn't allowed, or they went farther west to start their own lives with their new families and as such. And they also were known to help opposing forces throughout the war. Explain the significance of the Treaty of Paris, 1783. The Treaty of Paris ended the Revolutionary War between Great Britain and the United States, recognized American independence, and established borders for the new nation. After the British defeat at Yorktown, peace talks in Paris began in April 1782 between Richard Oswald, representing Great Britain, and the American Peace Commissioner Benjamin Franklin, John Ray, and John Adams. The American negotiators were joined by Henry Lawrence 2 days before the preliminary articles of peace were signed on November 30, 1782. The Treaty of Paris, formally ending the war, was not up until effect until September 3, 1783. The Continental Congress, which was temporarily situated in Annapolis, Maryland at the time, ratified the Treaty of Paris on January 14, 1784. And this will conclude my presentation. I hope you learned something. Thank you.